Hi, and welcome to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Welcome to the second hour of this Monday edition of Focal Point. The program is Focal Point. The network is AFR Talk. Just want to remind you again about the upcoming Heart Cry for Revival Conference, April 22 to 25 at the Billy Graham Training Center at the Cove in Asheville, North Carolina. Absolutely spectacular spot. And this is for people that have a heart for revival. They have a heart cry to see revival, spiritual awakening come to America. Nobody doubts that our nation needs this. And we want to make sure the focus is not on the darkness, but on the light, who is Jesus Christ. He himself is the light of the world. He wants his light to be reflected from us into the spiritual darkness. So here's an opportunity, April 22 to 25, for Christian leaders to come together and get a renewed passion and direction in order to lead others and lead this nation back into life-changing revival. So here's an opportunity to get a fresh vision and a fresh passion for the giver of revival and for the possibility of revival to be equipped to communicate revival truths to people in your sphere of influence and to strengthen your faith to believe God for a heaven-sent and Holy Spirit-empowered revival. Go to heartcryforrevival.org, heartcryforrevival.org. Now, I want to play a clip from Dr. Ben Carson. This is clip number 2, Rob. He was the neurosurgeon, pediatric neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins. He's going to be retiring this summer, and there's been a lot of speculation about a possible run for the presidency in 2016, and he hasn't discouraged that. He hasn't said he's going to do it, but he hasn't closed the door on the possibility. And this guy is a man of faith. He's a man of strong Christian faith. You know, and remember John Jay, who was the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. One of the things that John Jay said as a founding father, he was one of the authors of the Federalist Papers. He said, look, Christians have a privilege, but not just a privilege, but a responsibility to prefer Christians for their leaders. Here's what he said. This is the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers, and it is the duty, privilege, and interest of our Christian nation. Notice, first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court said this is a Christian nation. No ifs, ands, or buts, no doubt about it. This, ladies and gentlemen, was founded as a Christian nation. Got one of the authors of the Federalist Papers, one of the founding fathers, first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He said it himself. It is the duty, privilege, and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers. He said it is our duty, it is our privilege, and it is our interest, it's in our best interest to select and prefer Christians for public office. Now, Ben Carson, he's obviously a guy that's looking to God to direct his steps as the possibility of political office swirls around him. Here's what he had to say in his exchange with Chris Wallace of Fox News.
Do you have any qualms about the fact that, in a sense, you were lecturing the President of the United States while he just had to sit there?
Well, you know, I serve God, and my purpose is to please him. And if God be for you, who can be against you?
So that's Dr. Benjamin Carson. Man, I love that guy. Now, whether he would make a good candidate for the presidency, I'm not prepared to say. Herman Cain, strong man of faith, he ran into a blizzard, ran into a buzzsaw. By the way, you got the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, coming up in the middle of next month. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to start screening candidates right now. I mean, it's important for us to pay attention to everybody that appears at the CPAC, evaluate them as possible presidential timber. Rick Perry's going to be there. Bobby Jindal's going to be there. Ted Cruz will probably be there. I haven't heard that for sure. I think Marco Rubio is going to be there. All these guys are on the short list for 2016. And, you know, I sent out a tweet about this today, and somebody replied and said, hey, way too soon. Let's deal with 2014 first. And I say, no, we've got to start screening and selecting a standard bearer now. We've got to start asking the tough questions now. You know, we waited too long in the last cycle, and we wound up with a candidate that did not represent our values, had no passion for the values of the Founding Fathers, and that's one of the reasons why we lost. We can't afford to make that same mistake again. Now, we've got this, well, in fact, let's grab clip 5, Rob. I'm going to jump the queue here. Let's go to clip 5. This is Mitt Romney's chief strategist for the campaign. This is a guy that was running his campaign. This guy was the brains behind the Mitt Romney campaign, which was a fizzle. Didn't light any kind of fire under the grassroots base. They just stayed home in droves. And that's why Mitt Romney lost the election, because Barack Obama's voters stayed home in droves. The turnout for Barack Obama was way below what it was in 2008, but the turnout for Mitt Romney was also down. And he just couldn't generate any enthusiasm, couldn't generate any fire. Now, we've talked frequently on this program about the hostility, the bias, the enmity, the animus on the part of the mainstream media toward conservatives. We saw that with Tim Tebow. We saw that with Robert Jeffress, the way they landed on those two guys like a falling safe, the vitriol, the mean-spiritedness, the hostility, the animus that was focused on them was a wonder to behold. And my point is, if you're going to run a campaign for public office and you're running a campaign for a guy that wants to be treated and known as a conservative, then you had better be aware of how much hate, and I use that word very advisedly and by choice, how much hatred there is on the part of the mainstream media toward your guy, toward your candidate, toward conservative values, toward conservative principles, toward conservative candidates. With that in mind, listen to Stu Stevens, the chief strategist for Mitt Romney, who doesn't even believe the media was in the tank for Barack Obama. Let's listen.
Do you believe today that much of the media is in the tank for Barack Obama?
Oh, it's not a yes or a no question. In the tank, I would say no. So yes or no question,
favorable
I
toward
would
the president,
say no.
too sympathetic to the president? How would you put it?
I think that after the election, you're going to have a lot tougher questions that are going to be asked because you're out of an election environment. I think you're seeing that this past weekend with this whole golf outing.
So he's asked a direct question. ABC, was the mainstream media, the meanstream media, and I use that term advisedly, it's not original with me, a caller suggested it one day, they're mean. They are mean to conservatives. They were mean to Tim Tebow. They were mean to Robert Jeffress. They were mean to Mitt Romney. He's the guy that doesn't love dogs, straps them to the roof of the car. He's the guy that allows the wives of employees to die of cancer. He doesn't care, takes his money out of seats. They are mean. And Stuart Stevens, the guy running his campaign, he's asked, was the media in the tank for your opponent? And he says, no, they weren't. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's no mystery why they got hosed, why they got their hats handed to them, because the guy that was running Mitt Romney's campaign was clueless as to the energy and the animus that they were up against. Now, you can't defeat somebody unless you know your enemy. That's the first rule of war. You've got to know your enemy. Here's a guy that went into battle unarmed and defenseless. No wonder it was Custer at the Little Bighorn. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2. Stay with us.